Do you want to do a, oh shit, it's 2008. Damn it, whatever. No one's gonna fact check me.
You know what that means, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know what it means.
In a world where the last thing we needed was more podcasts, we present to you the pods we cast along the way.
Hello, and welcome to the pods we cast along the way. I'm Spencer.
And I'm Ryan.
And on this week's episode, we need to open on a somber note. Last week, we were having a discussion about the new Amazon Al Pacino show, Hunters. And Ryan and I were discussing who the cast were in that show. And so I decided to hop on the old Google machine and look up what actors and actresses were in the cast. And I made the sweeping statement that we had such heavy hitters as Meryl Streep in the cast. That is incorrect. What ended up happening was when I Googled Hunters, I was looking at an affiliated link. It's usually the tab that says people also search for. It was Angels in America.
I am furious with both you and myself for even thinking for a second, that that was true. As I heard it, I was like, I don't think that sounds about right for about a millisecond. And then I was on board. Like, yes, Meryl Streep is in this Nazi Hunter show. And she is second billed.
I love that this has just become a recurring segment on the series, though, that every week we have to apologize for something we either fucked up or, like, just some controversy from the previous week.
That's true. It's like we're real time with Bill Maher.
Oh, that's a joke that went over my head because I'm not a smartman.
Take that, Bill Maher. This show brought to you by Bill Maher. Just not the show, the person.
He's personally sponsoring the show.
He's personally sponsoring the show. This is his legacy.
Oh, man. So...
Well, that's it for the show.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Spencer, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ryan? You holding up okay with everything with quarantine and all that?
I am. I was trying to, we're trying to sell this podcast. We're trying to get people to listen. We think that we have things to talk about. We have things that people are interested in.
I don't think any other podcast talks about video games, film, or television. I was shocked. When I went on to Spotify, all the podcasts are literally just true crime drama podcasts.
It's all just true crime drama. And so we thought, hey, let's shake it up. Let's mix it. There's almost no murder on our show.
Almost none. There have been
almost none.
We've had characters canonically die on our show already.
That is true.
This is the deep lore of the pods we cast along the way.
I think that was a suicide, though. I don't think it was a murder. I think it was a fictional suicide.
Was it? I thought he had a massive heart attack in the driveway as he was.
Oh, that's right.
Away.
He was clutching his chest, and maybe he was murder.
It could have been a murder.
Maybe it was murder. I didn't get a good look.
Find out next week on the pods we cast along the way. This is now a true crime podcast. In an effort to make ourselves more marketable, we're now a true crime podcast.
I was in my house. I don't remember anything about the day, but I do remember exactly what time it was. It was 11:38. I just put on a kettle of tea when all of a sudden I looked outside and I saw a man clutching his chest, but then I saw another man in the grassy knoll. As I looked closer, I could have I made out rosy cheeks, red hair, and I could have, and the sweet smell of a McDonald's Happy Meal. It was Ronald McDonald.
Oh my God. This episode brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I also love it.
We're contractually obligated to love it.
Do you think there's like a McDonald's ripoff somewhere that the slogan is "I also love it"?
That sounds like
something. What if Burger King came out and that was like their new slogan? I also love it.
It's better than anything that Burger King's trying to do for their brand right now. Is any fast food chain doing as poorly as Burger King?
I can't answer that question. I don't know what their sales figures are. I do know that Burger King is now doing Impossible Meat, which
that's true.
which was a big thing, which is a big deal a couple of months ago. I don't know how well that's working out for him, but they're continuing to do that. Hey, you know what, Spencer?
What's that, Ryan?
Don't shit on Burger King. How dare you?
You know what? I can't shit on Burger King, and here's how everything is so connected in the real life cinematic universe. You wanna share the story real quick about Burger King and the gag in Iron Man?
Oh yeah. So Burger King. So Robert Downey Jr. was down on his luck. He had a huge drug problem. Nobody would hire him. He had just gotten out of rehab. He was on a bender, and he went to a Burger King and ordered his favorite meal, which was a Whopper. He ate it, and because of the drugs in his system, it was the worst Whopper he ever had. And from that point on, he swore off drugs forever. And that's why in Iron Man, the first thing he does when he gets home is eats a Whopper.
Nice. And the reason I had you tell that story was because clearly Iron Man was what rejuvenated Robert Downey Jr.'s career. But the fact that you mentioned Burger King serving Impossible meat, sort of a weird connection. The new Ant-Man themed quick service restaurant in Avengers Campus, which is the new Marvel themed land opening in California Adventure at some point whenever Disneyland reopens. Impossible meat is one of their partners, so all of the meat options will be served using Impossible meat. So kind of a funny roundabout connection there, how we tie all those things together here on the pods we cast along the way.
What do you think makes the meat impossible?
The fact that they got into the fast food business. That was the impossible task. Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite fast food burger or place to go eat?
Oh, absolutely, I do. Well, I have a few, and I have many opinions about this. Welcome to our fast food review section of our podcast.
No other
Jimmy,
podcast does reviews on fast food. We're the only ones.
Absolutely not. We're the only ones. Everyone else is just true crime, and we're the only ones to talk about movies, video games, and fast food. Because
people are gonna think that we are like basement dwelling troglodytes.
we are basement dwelling troglodytes, and they'd be right. What are your top 3 fast food burgers?
So, can I kind of subcategorize? Can I sort of rank them based on like availability?
Of course.
I would say my top 3. If I want a fast food type burger that's not like a sit down restaurant, so we're excluding anything like a Red Robin or like Umami Burger. Like those are sit down places. You go, you get like a prepared meal, not something just quick. Even though it's not fast in the technical sense, I don't know if there are any drive-thrus. I don't think there are. I would have to say my number 1 is Five Guys.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember the Songify video of the guy who reviews the Five Guys burger?
No, I don't.
We'll put a link to it in the show notes, but it's pretty good. But the guy in the original video, he's like, you have differences between burgers, and you have a weak burger and a burger that has strength. And a burger that has strength has, the meat and the cheese and everything, like it absorbs all of the space in your mouth, and you can't talk because you're enjoying the burger and you're just chewing on it so much. And that's a Five Guys burger. Have you had Five Guys in your time?
I have had a Five Guys burger. It would be my number 2 burger on the list.
Yeah.
Pardon my language, I see Five Guys as a fuck you burger, where you have burgers that are very well constructed, very well put together. Five Guys, they put a bunch of ingredients in a sack.
It's
It
so
leaks
true.
toward the bottom. They go, you want fries? Oh, you want little fries? And then they pour a bucket of fries over in the bag, and then they shove it down your throat, and you thank them for it. That's fuck you burger.
That's so great. I love that, a fuck you burger. I'm totally using that. It's true though. Like that's a perfect way to describe it.
Oh yeah. My number 1 burger, it would be, and I wonder if it's on your list. is In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger is my favorite burger.
Oh, see, now this is where we're gonna have some controversy on the show. But
You hate In-N-Out Burger.
I don't hate In-N-Out Burger, but I do want to hear your what's your reasoning behind In-N-Out, because In-N-Out is the favorite of a lot of folks. A lot of people, especially those who live out on the West Coast, like that is a mecca for them. It's like, oh, you're on the West Coast, you gotta go get an In-N-Out Burger. But I would like to hear your reasoning why In-N-Out is your number one.
All of their stuff is clean. None of their stuff is frozen. Their bread, the way that they toast their bread is perfect, so it has that crunch. It's a very aesthetically pleasing burger, and it goes down easy, and it doesn't fall apart as I eat it. That's a big thing with burgers.
Yeah.
I don't like a burger that where I'm not holding both buns by the end of it. That's a big thing for me. And
Yeah.
I appreciate In-N-Out a lot because the more I hear about their company and the more I hear about their practices, how they provide their beef, how they handle their vegetables, how they handle their employees. The more I hear about them, I just think they're a great company.
Nice. Yeah. In-N-Out, I agree with you on those fronts in terms of how they run their business. I guess they actually borrowed a lot of their business practices from like the quote unquote Disney college way of managing a business, how they manage their people and their employees. It is a very clean, very well run establishment. You're right. The ingredients are always good, frozen. My biggest gripe about In-N-Out is not so much with the quality of their food, but it's how overhyped In-N-Out is. I think In-N-Out is a very solid burger. It's not in my top 3, unfortunately. Which is going to shock a lot of people, but I certainly will not turn my nose up at In-N-Out if someone wants to go there. I like their animal style, everything. My biggest gripe about In-N-Out is less about their burgers and more about their fries. Fries, I think, are a very underrated part of what makes a burger so good, is you want a good French fry to go with your burger. And my problem with In-N-Out fries is they have a shelf life of about 2 city blocks.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's true. Well,
you get your order and they're just like they're cold and hollow by the time you get halfway through them, and that to me is a ding against them. Even though they prepare them fresh, like you see them, they have the cool like little French fry guillotine thing they bring down and they chop all the fries up in front of you. Their shakes are really good though.
now have you had an animal style fry from In-N-Out Burger?
I usually get the animal style fries, and maybe that's where my gripe comes from, is the cheese just coagulates with the onions and everything about halfway through, so you have to end up cutting it up with a knife and a fork, and it's just, that's not appealing to me. But still a very good burger, just not in my personal top 3.
That's interesting that you would dig the fries for a best burger contest, Spencer.
Yeah. Why's
yeah,
that?
I'm calling you out for that.
Why?
I don't know. Because
You don't
of
have a
this
reason.
arbitrary lists that were. I think that's unfair at In-N-Out Burger. Take their fries, a side dish, and put it against them.
I feel like I set up a very important qualification for why I take fries into consideration in terms of ranking.
That may be. Yeah, that may be.
Ryan, what's your number 2 burger?
My number 2 is Five Guys.
Nice.
My number 3, and this is a burger you could have anywhere. It doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. The best general burger in the country is Wendy's. The Wendy's Junior Baconator is the best fast food burger that you could order in any state in America, I think.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. Wendy's is my number 2. In terms of fast food drive-through burgers that you can get, Wendy's. To your same point about Five Guys, Wendy's is... they use fresh ingredients as well. I've never had a bad experience eating a Wendy's burger, whereas I've had poor experiences some of the time eating other places. And just to kind of wrap up our list here, my number 3 is actually Carl's Jr., a.k.a. Hardee's. I personally really like Carl's Jr. I feel like the sizes that you get are pretty big for how much you spend there. Carl's Jr.
I'm not a Carl's Jr. fan.
That's okay. Not everybody is. And that's, you know what, Ryan? It's the differences that make us human on the burgers we eat along the way.
No, I actually think less of you for liking Carl's Jr. I think we need to get we need to get back to this.
All right, fuck you then.
Fuck you too. And that's the real lesson of the burgers we eat along the way.
Oh.
Hey, Spencer,
Yeah, Ryan.
I got a question for you.
What's that?
Uh, I've made some recommendations over the course of the show to you. You've made some recommendations for things to watch, things to play, things to do
Mhm.
over the course of the show. How many things that I've recommended have you actually gone and watched?
Let me answer that question with another question. How many have you watched?
Let's say our answer at the count of three at the same time.
Okay.
Okay. One, two, three,
None.
none. So I had a feeling of that. So I want to play a challenge with you. A challenge.
Uh-huh. What's that?
I want to recommend one thing for you to watch this week.
Okay.
That'll take up a little bit of your time, but not a ton of it.
Okay.
And then next week we'll talk about it. And in turn, you should recommend something to me so that we have something to talk about.
All right. I like this plan.
Okay. So I guess my first question to you is, what streaming services do you have?
Pretty much all of them.
Pretty much all of them.
Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, HBO. So I have ways of finding things. Pretty much whatever you can toss out there.
All right, great. Okay, I have a recommendation for you.
Okay.
Because last episode we were talking about documentaries.
Yes.
You said the documentaries weren't really your jam.
That's right.
I think I have a documentary that I don't think you've seen that I think you would love.
Okay.
It deals with the pangs of being an artist. It deals with the gaming industry, eclectic and odd people that inhabit it, and it's a bunch of success stories kind of rolled into one, with villains and heroes and everything in between. It's a movie called Indie Game the Movie.
Indie Game the Movie.
Indie Game the Movie. You could find it on Amazon Prime. You could stream it, I believe, for free. It follows. It really follows the development of it. They bill it as following the development of 3 games and 4 people. It's really more 2 games because they bumper it between the creator of the game Braid and his journey in creating his game into what at the time was considered the best independent game, one of the best independent games ever. Have you ever played Braid?
I've played through some of it. I never beat Braid, but it's an interesting concept.
Yes. So the other 2 games are Fez and Super Meat Boy.
Oh, I've never played Fez. I've played Braid and I've played Super Meat Boy. I have not yet gotten into Fez.
Well, if you are you familiar with the guy that made Fez?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you'll get to know that guy. It's a guy named Phil Fish. He's one of the most fascinating and possibly hated people on the internet.
Fascinating is always a term you use when you want to politely describe someone who's a raging asshole.
Well, you can make your own. You could make your own opinion of him, and
Okay.
then they follow 2 guys that make Super Meat Boy, and they all have vastly different takes on what it means to be an artist and what it means to be a designer in this industry. I think you would really get a kick out of it, and that's what I recommend to you to watch sometime this week.
Nice.
Indie Game the Movie.
Yeah, that actually does sound really interesting. I'm looking forward to checking that out. And
All right.
unlike our previous recommendations, I will actually make an effort to do it this time.
Oh shoot! I should have recommended No Country for Old Men.
Oh, you fool!
Oh,
One of my friends
I'm a
actually
fool.
texted me who was listening to the podcast, and he's like, "Have you caved and watched No Country for Old Men yet?" And I was like, "Nope."
It's so good.
At this point, I'm just not watching it on principle. But no,
Principle?
I told you I own that movie, right? Like, I have no excuse to not watch it.
It's a great movie. You
I
should
know,
watch
I
it.
know it is. I have nothing against it. I just have not gotten around to watching it yet. But indie game, yeah, we do talk a lot about video games on the show, so that'll be an interesting thing to go over and talk about next week. Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Speaking of video games.
Mhm.
You and I, we're both predominantly Nintendo boys. We both love our Nintendo game consoles. You had
We sure
brought up
do.
a segment that you wanted to do on the show where we build our perfect Nintendo console. So why don't we take a music break and we'll have that be our next segment?
Sounds good.
All right. So this is Shigeru Miyamoto with Wii Music Super Mario theme from 2006.
Oh my
Oh, it's so bad.
god. What's this xylophone?
It's just four adults on stage trying to. Oh God, the drummer. What a nightmare of a human being.
Listen, man, they're having a time.
They're having something.
They're having a time. Have you ever had a time?
I've been known to have a time from time to time.
No, no, have a time. When was the last time you had a time? When was the last time you had a time?
I'm having a time watching these guys right now.
Oh, you.
How do you think he feels knowing that this is his legacy? Just being
Well,
murdered on stage.
Wait, who are you talking about right now?
Miyamoto.
You're talking about this is his legacy?
Well, it's part of his legacy. Like, he's the father of Mario.
I mean, yeah, but he's not responsible for everything. I mean,
He's on stage doing this.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like,
All right. Well, we're back. That was Shigeru Miyamoto and company with the Wii Music Super Mario theme, and that's actually from 2008, not 2006. I'm getting ahead of the controversy on this one, Ryan.
oh, man, after hearing that, I had a bad day, and now I have a worse day. So that's it. Hey, Spencer.
Yeah, Ryan.
I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I've been in this quarantine. I'm kind of getting a little back more into video games than I usually do because it's just what you can do.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, I have all these old Nintendo consoles,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always trying to look forward, what they're gonna do next, but more importantly, like what I want them to do next.
Yeah, sure.
So, like, selfishly, like, I have my own ideas, and I wondered if you have your own ideas. If you had to design your own Nintendo console, what would it be?
That's a good question. Before I answer that, can I actually give you an opinion on what I think one of the perfect Nintendo consoles is?
Absolutely.
So, anyone who has heard me soapbox about this in real life knows I have a really big problem with the uncertain territories of digital media ownership. How if you buy a game digitally, you're essentially just leasing the game from a game company, even if you have it downloaded. Let's say, DuckTales on, I think it was Xbox and the Wii U shop. The DuckTales remastered game was available digitally for quite a bit of time. I want to say from like 2013 to about a year ago. And Capcom just decided, hey, we're going to take it off of every digital storefront. And fortunately, I had purchased it and I had it downloaded to my console. So it wasn't as much of a concern for me. But let's say that I had deleted that game to free up some space because, memory and storage are ever increasing issues that you have to worry about with game systems. And let's say I said, I haven't played DuckTales Remastered in a while. It's a good game. I want to go back and replay it. Oh, I can't. Even though I own it, it's not on the storefront anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I will make a long story short by saying Capcom actually did put it back up. So mini crisis averted, but it just got me to thinking, Nintendo, they are one of the biggest proponents of anti quote unquote piracy in the form of releasing video game ROMs. And for those of you who don't know, a ROM is essentially a shorthand for any game that has been ripped to a digital file that you can play through an emulator, which is a third-party program that lets you run game console games. A lot of people have them for Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, N64, all the really popular ones.
What does ROM stand for?
I think it means read-only memory. So it basically
No,
refers.
It doesn't stand for that.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
It stands for writing on mice.
Yeah, it means read-only memory, and it basically is it's the entire game file ripped to a single image that you load onto a program to play it on the on a system that it was not originally designed for. So many people have them for their computers. The Super Nintendo Classic and the NES Classic actually are both essentially emulation machines. So a lot of folks have backwards uh, engineered ways to get more ROMs onto those little boxes that you hook up to your TV. I've got quite a few extra ones loaded on, and it's made it quite a great little thing. This is a roundabout way of me saying that I actually think the Wii U, for much of commercial failure as it was, is actually one of the best consoles that you could buy based on what it can do. Because not only can the Wii U play all of the Wii U library, which even the Switch currently can't do, it also runs a full Nintendo Wii emulator, which is a fancy way of backdooring in homebrew software, which can allow you to load emulators onto that machine. So many people who don't have GameCubes or have GameCubes that are failing, for example, can round up a bunch of ROMs of their favorite GameCube games. And fun fact, it's actually not illegal to own a ROM if you also own a hard copy of the game. So fortunately for me, all the games that I do own, I do have hard copies of, because I'm a good boy.
Oh
And
wow.
I was just, I was on last night and I thought to myself, man, I would really love to play Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, which was the only game besides Donkey Konga that used the DK Bongo controller. Um, and you can get it for the Wii, but it's not the same because it doesn't use that controller. It was really fun to play, slapping the bongos to play around on screen. And through the use of my GameCube controller adapter, the Wii U, and some fancy software work, I was able to actually get it running like it could have run on a GameCube. So you can load on Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx. Pretty much, if it exists as an emulator, you could have loaded it onto the Wii. And if you backdoor that in through the Wii U software, you have what is arguably the most complete backwards compatible Nintendo console of all time. With the Switch notwithstanding. So I think that actually, for your money, is a great console to own, especially if you're interested in game preservation and history, and going back and revisiting games in a neat little package.
I'm sitting here smiling because you basically put together like almost exactly verbatim what I was going to say. Like, I love my Wii U because of that, because I still have like this big collection of backlog that I just still like to this day love going back through more than I actually like going out and getting like new games. I was thinking like, I would love to like get a like an older console that I could just play as much as I can on it. But if you do that, you're always going to be missing something. I'd say like with that company, like there are like 10 or like 20 like games that are like must plays.
Yeah,
And it's kind of sad that there isn't really like a console where you could play like all of them.
yeah.
You're
They
always going to miss one. I was thinking about this the other day. If you had a GameCube and if you had a Game Boy player, did you ever have a Game Boy player
I
growing
did.
up?
I always went hard into investing in Nintendo hardware. Like those were my primary consoles, so I usually
Yeah,
got most of the stuff for them.
yeah. Well, if you had GameCube, Game Boy player, you could play. I'd say you could play like a very big chunk of that entire library because of how many things were ported to the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. Like you could go
Yeah,
back and you could play all these NES games, you could play all these Super Nintendo games, and you could have it all in one place. But you would still have um, these uh, these blind spots. Like you, it's kind of funny to me that there's never been like one of the greatest games of all time is Super Metroid. Super Metroid is like
yeah.
hands down. I think
I go
most
back to
people
Super
would agree.
Metroid 2 or 3 times a year. It
Yeah,
really legitimately does hold up. You could release it today and it would still do very, very well. Just as is, not even with updated graphics or anything. It is such a tight, classic game.
yeah. So it's crazy to me that like the last time that game had a physical release was the Super Nintendo. It was never remastered. It was never ported. It was never anything. Like if you
Hmm.
wanted a physical copy of that game, it had to be the Super Nintendo. You could download it, but like you said, um like via their eShop and via like online means, like it's almost kind of fleeting. Like you have it for a time.
Yeah.
um I kind of like to have like I like the feeling of having like a physical game in my hands. Like ROMs are really cool for that reason. But I always I always feel kind of dirty, and I know I shouldn't. Um,
I'll
but
tell you. Go ahead.
go ahead.
I'll tell you why you shouldn't feel dirty about ROM ownership is that game companies have gone out of their way to erase their history. They have refused, and I actually have to say, as poorly as I think Microsoft has performed in this current console generation, they've done a lot to make sure that their other games from Xbox to Xbox One are compatible. Not everything is playable, but they have done a lot to make backwards compatibility a thing because Microsoft got into the game business when disc-based media was sort of becoming the norm. Really had been the norm at that point. I'd say PlayStation was the start of all of that a generation before. But because everything on Microsoft was disc-based, everything has a disc reader. And because Blu-ray readers can also read DVDs, which was the media of the time, you can go back and play a lot of those games. So I got to give props to Microsoft for making an effort to do backwards compatibility. Meanwhile, you've got Nintendo doing I don't know what, thinking, hey, let's not release games again on an eShop. Um, so don't feel bad about trying to get a hold of gaming history when game companies don't do anything to help preserve their own legacy. Where can you go back
Okay.
and play a copy of Golden Sun?
You would well, Golden Sun was released on Wii U, so you could download it
Mm-hmm.
potentially. I'm assuming that shop is still open. But you would
But who
need
knows when it's going to remain? I mean, the Wii shop doesn't work anymore.
no, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it's GoldenEye. GoldenEye's another one. Or if you don't have a Nintendo 64, like you're kind of SOL
Yeah,
because it's just out in the ether. Like you have to download it by other means.
yeah,
My question for you was going to be if they came out and they said here's a classic console.
hmm
It has 3 slots in it. You can play um, NES, SNES, and N64 titles all on this one consoles, but you need the cartridges, and we're going to re-release some classic cartridges. How
yeah.
well do you think that would sell?
Considering what you're describing actually does exist in one form,
It does in a form, but
it's not officially licensed.
it's not
It's just
officially licensed, and there
hardware.
is no SNES and 64 hybrid.
That's true. Um, I would probably have to see what the library looked like because weirdly enough, a lot of my favorite games were not first-party games, and that's the other problem I have with
Mm.
re-releases that Nintendo does. They only tend to focus on about 20 titles that were the most popular during the time. Like, how many versions of Ocarina of Time do you own? I've got like 3. I've got one for the N64, I've got the Master Quest disc for GameCube, and I bought the 3D version for the 3DS. In total, I think I paid less than $60 for all 3 of those versions, over time. But I still played the game 3 times, so the problem I have with any media based stuff, especially cartridges, is they would need to update them to be flash memory based because a lot of those old systems used batteries to have save states, and batteries fail over time. You can
Mhm.
replace them, but you'll lose your save data. And I think my copy of Pokemon Red at this point has a dead battery. I know Gold does because when I fired it up, it didn't remember where I was, and that makes me sad. Um, but I still have the games. My biggest problem is I don't have a problem with digital media as long as there's some sort of guarantee that it will be available as part of a historical preservation movement and not just to resell things. Um, I don't know if you remember this, but the Wii U, when they revamped their eShop, actually re-released all of the games, most of the games, not even all of them, most of the games that were on the uh, Wii Shop channel Virtual Console, they re-released them in HD for the Wii U because the Wii U was Nintendo's first HD console, and they had a program in place where it was basically like it read your data if you did a system transfer from your Wii to your Wii U, it would read your data and uh, basically say, okay, you own this game, this game, and this game. You can buy that game for like 5 cents on the Wii U shop.
Yes.
It was basically a service fee for upgrading to HD, and I thought that was a really good way of handling it. Fast forward to the Switch, where's the eShop?
All gone. all
All
gone.
gone.
They put in their online library, which is fine, and you get a lot of stuff out of it. I was actually a lot harder than I on it than than I think I am now when I first heard of it, because I was like, dang, like I really don't want to pay a subscription
Hmm.
to, you know, I want to own this stuff. Like I want to have this stuff forever. If you could put 10, well, I'm going to say five. If you could 5 games on the Switch from like the past, they're physical copies, like anybody can own them. What would those 5 games be?
Oh man, that's hard. Um, Selfishly, Banjo Kazooie. Um, I won't go on a rant about this now, but I do think Banjo Kazooie is an objectively perfect 3D platformer. Um, so boy, you're asking me to choose games that are also from like the GameCube and the Wii era. Let me phrase it this way for you. If you could pick one game from each generation to put on the Switch, which ones would you pick?
Ooh.
So for the NES, oh man, tough call.
You made your own hypothetical, and
Uh,
and
eh,
you stumped
I
yourself.
did sum myself. NES, Super Mario Brothers 3. I actually think Super Mario Brothers 3 is one of the most perfect games for the NES. It still is one of those ones that holds up and isn't like old school BS tough
Mhm.
on that console. Super Nintendo, I would probably pick Super Metroid. Still one of the best games you can get on that console, and I'm even counting it against things like Link to the Past, which would probably be my runner-up. N64, personally, Banjo Kazooie. Like I said, N64 was like the 3D platforming era. I know you're going to get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, what about GoldenEye? What about Mario 64? What about Ocarina of Time?" It's like, mm, Banjo Kazooie. That's a game that needs to be played by more people. Um, GameCube era,
I know
probably.
my pick immediately for GameCube era.
I think I know your pick too. So I'll pick Super Mario Sunshine. I think for
Mm.
GameCube era. Uh, Wii era. That's another tough one. A lot of good games on the Wii, but I'm thinking of the games that I played most on that system. Wii Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wii Sports. Even though it's a
Oh
tech
no.
demo, it's got some of the best replayability value out of any Nintendo game ever.
Oh, definitely.
Um, and I think that that would if we were to package these as like a legacy collection, like a 6 pack of games, Wii Sports I think rounds that list out nicely. And then for the Wii U, I guess it wouldn't matter because all the games got ported over anyways. But maybe Tropical Freeze. That's one of the best 2D platformers I've played in a very long time.
Tropical Threes was ported.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Most of the library has been ported at this point. I think there's only like Pikmin 3 and Super Mario 3D World are the only two that haven't been
Oh
ported
yeah.
yet. So that's probably my five. What about you? What would you pick?
Okay, my 5. So these are so so in this situation, are you looking for like the best on each platform, or just like what should be ported so
It's a
more people
mix
can
of both.
experience?
It's a mix of both for me. Certain platforms I picked what I think the best representation is, like Super Nintendo and NES. N64 I went more personal with my pick. For the Wii I went with what I think had the most appeal and was I think it's one of the most successful games of all time. And then the Wii U again I went with just a game that I thought was objectively pretty close to perfect. So
All right,
what
all
about you?
right.
What would you pick? That's such a hard list though because you could fill top 10 lists for each of those consoles very
Oh,
quickly.
absolutely. Um, I pick. I'd also pick Mario 3. I'd go if I could cheat, I'd pick all three. If I could cheat, I'd pick all three, and I'd just take that whole collection and put it up.
You can cheat,
Uh,
Ryan, because for the SNES they had the Super Mario. What was it? Super Mario All Stars, which
that's
had all
true.
three.
Uh, so I can cheat. Uh, my I mean, the only thing that I thought of like that whole SNES classic, the only game that I thought like, man, like they're missing, was Chrono Trigger.
Yeah,
I love Chrono Trigger. I think that's easily one of the best. So for that reason, I think I would put that up there. N64. Uh,
Hercules, right? Based on the TV show, that one.
wait, what'd you say?
Hercules, right? The game Hercules. You remember that game for the
Oh yeah, yeah,
N64?
yeah. N64 Hercules,
Mhm.
GameCube Hercules, we Hercules 2. No, N64. I think I took. I think I take GoldenEye.
For the N64.
Yeah, just because it's about time to like move it forward.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this, but having no nostalgia for GoldenEye because I never played it on the N64, which I know is heresy for a lot of gamers. Do you think that game still holds up by modern standards? Do you think if you put that on a modern console, it would still be as popular to a generation who did not grow up with it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think a general audience would not enjoy it, but I think somebody out there somewhere would get that amount of enjoyment out of it from. I think a kid would really enjoy that game.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that'd be a great intro to like a first person shooter genre. I think that's the appeal of it. I think the people that really like that game are the people that could enjoy it when they were kids because
Yeah.
it was a Nintendo game. Like they could still have fun and just play around with it.
Yeah. You know
So for
what?
that reason, I pick it.
That's totally fair. You know what? Since we're talking about recommendations, we don't have to complete this by next week, but I'm going to throw a challenge out there. You've mentioned that you've also not played Banjo Kazooie,
That's true.
and seeing how Banjo Kazooie and GoldenEye were our top picks for the N64, why don't we uh, try to play each other's favorite classics?
A little swapperoo.
Yeah, a little
Okay.
swapperoo, and then we can come back and because you have no nostalgia for Banjo Kazooie, I grew up playing that game, and vice versa for you and GoldenEye. So I'm interested to see what each other's thoughts would be going back and exploring them.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
Nice.
Okay. I'm
So
in.
that's your N64 pick. So what would you pick for the next two gens?
Okay. I'm trying to think of like games that like. Oh, GameCube's easy. Melee.
Yes,
100%.
I knew you were going to pick Melee.
100%.
It's a fantastic game. I played Melee and Super Monkey Ball 2 and Mario Party 4. I think were my top three multiplayer games of the GameCube era. Oh, and Double
Good
Dash.
picks. Good picks.
Yeah, GameCube had a
Um.
lot of great party games.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, my Wii pick would be Skyward Sword
Oh,
because I think they could. I think they. I still think there's so much of that whole experience that they got so much right.
yeah.
I think they just need a few tweaks. And people always think that they're like big tweaks, but I think it's just like a bunch of little tweaks. Um, and I think it would be incredible. I think it would find a brand new audience. And then Wii U, I'd probably pick.
Wii U's tough. Wii U
Wii
had a
U's tough.
very good but very concentrated library.
It sure did. I'd probably pick 3D World.
3D World is great.
Yeah, I'd love that game.
Yeah. That one again is one of those that you can make a few small tweaks because much like Skyward Sword, it was dependent on the system's hardware.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but the Wii U, I think rightfully so, a lot of people say is sort of the testing ground for the Switch. I actually picked up my Wii U gamepad for the first time in a long time.
just dust that puppy
I
off.
did, yeah. I got it all hooked up to the TV in the living room. Got a nice spot on the shelf for the charging cradle, and I picked up the gamepad. And I'm like, this feels like the Fisher Price version of the Switch.
It is. It is.
But that's a good segue into your original question, which is how would you build a perfect Nintendo console? Hot take: I think the Switch, with a few minor adjustments, is actually there. I think the Switch is Nintendo's magnum opus in terms of hardware and a concept for a console. I mean, damn, it handles a lot, and it handles it
It sure
good.
does.
It's got The
It sure
Witcher
does.
running on it, for Christ's sake. Like, they can push that little thing, really far. I actually think the Switch Lite was a step back in a lot of ways because they removed features that made the Switch such a good console, and that's why I don't recommend for people, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about getting a Switch, hold out for a Switch. Do not get a Switch Lite. The features that they removed to make it the Lite version is not worth the $100 savings you get on the price tag. Um, but sort of a jumping off point. Yeah, I think the Switch is close to a perfect console. But what are your thoughts?
My perfect console would just be a gray box with a bunch of holes in it. It would be able to play everything. That's always been my dream. Is like
Mhm.
one day I would be able to like play everything on a certain box. So I think you're right. I think the Wii U is the closest um, that I've seen get to that because of how much you could do on it, but there were still these blind spots.
Yeah,
That's why I love the idea of classic consoles, because I love that they're going back and they're recognizing that there are people that really want this stuff, but
yeah.
they and I think for the most part, like, they pick the right stuff to port over. But I'd love one day to see just the complete experience in one platform, and maybe the Switch will be that one day. I still think that, like,
Yeah, Switch has a long way to go. There's still a lot that's
I'll,
not perfect
I'll tell
about it.
you, I'll tell you what would make the Switch perfect for me. What would make the Switch perfect for me is there an option to play DS and 3DS games on it.
Oh.
If there were an option to make your handheld screen the bottom screen, and then your TV the top screen.
Well,
which
there you go. You can do that on the Wii U, right? Because it had the
you
gamepad
can,
that can connect to the console, which is beaming up to the TV. Yeah.
you can. But if there was some equivalent of a Game Boy player to a Switch, which I think might be technically impossible at this point. I don't think they've figured that out.
I don't think so. Because all that requires is a good enough data port that can interface between the dock and the TV. I think you could hook it up to the dock with the USB ports, just like you could with,
If you build that for me, I will give you a lot of money.
Now you've got me thinking if people have tried to convert their old Game Boy players to a USB interface, because it just used a specialized connector port on the bottom of the GameCube. So that's just a hardware interface thing. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if because the Game Boy player is basically just a Game Boy that you plugged into the bottom of your GameCube. All it did was pass the video and audio through to the TV.
I mean, think of how much you could do if you could put a Game Boy player on a Wii. If you put a Game Boy player on a Wii and you have, like, all this stuff already downloaded, but you can, like,
You'll have to come over and visit sometime, and I'll show you what the Wii U can do.
I know. I'm behind on my.
Why aren't you
homebrewing
coming to
skills.
visit me, Ryan, in these lockdown quarantine times? I'm so bored. When is Ryan visiting?
When hell freezes over?
Ooh!
Ooh!
That's our signature catchphrase, by the way. You haven't heard it until whatever episode this is, but ooh.
our collective oohing.
Our collective oohing. Hey, listen,
Finally
we came up
made
with
the
it in
episode.
college. It finally made the cut. It's mainstream. That and it was fine. I feel like are two.
Our two go. We sound like two grumpy old men.
Back in my day, in the days of the Wii U, it didn't take much to backdoor some software and run your favorite ROMs and emulators, and these little spittle fucks have their Fortnites and their PUBGs, and they don't even know their ass from a Game Boy.
I don't want to play games like Fort Box and Minesweeper. I just want to play Mega Man 2.
I'm afraid of change.
Speaking of change, let's change the subject here.
Okay.
See what I did there?
I did.
You see what I did?
Yeah, what do you
see
want to change
did?
it to?
Spencer, I have a plea for you.
A plea?
A plea.
A
Yes.
plea, okay.
So, I was talking to my wife earlier, and podcasts aren't really her jam.
Yes.
But I was thinking, maybe if I get this podcast to kind of be like something that she would listen to, like maybe like she would really enjoy it.
Mhm.
So I want to make this Little Fires Everywhere podcast. She really likes the show Little Fires Everywhere, and
Okay.
she really likes the book Little Fires Everywhere.
Okay.
So I was hoping we could have a discussion about Little Fires Everywhere.
Yeah, sure. We're switching formats from True Crime Podcast to Little Fires Everywhere podcast. This is the Little Fires So Ryan, let's talk about Little Fires Everywhere.
You got it. Yeah, go ahead.
So one of my favorite parts about Little Fires Everywhere is it's a book,
Hmm.
and you can read it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's available now,
Uh-huh.
and it's a great time to check it out because it's quarantine times.
Yeah. You know what I like about the show?
What's that?
Reese Witherspoon's in it.
Mm-hmm.
She was in Legally Blonde.
That's right, she was.
I love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Have you ever had a little fire?
Um, yeah, one time when I was a kid, I accidentally set my part of my bedroom carpet on fire.
Is that true?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was trying to burn parchment to make it look old-timey, and part of it fell onto the
Oh,
floor.
wait, hey, hang on. How old were you?
Oh, older than I probably should have been.
How old were you?
I think I was like 12 or 13.
So you were okay. Well, no, I thought you were like 5. So I thought you were like, well, this parchment needs to be a little older. I'm actually kind of relieved that you were a
Ryan, but
little.
would you have been surprised if I told you I was 5 when I said the parchment needed to be aged and more authentic? Like,
Absolutely not.
knowing me.
And I would not put it past Baby Spencer to say the word parchment. So you lit a section of your bedroom on fire. What did you do?
Well, you say section like it was a big part of the carpet. It was just it was probably the size of like a coaster. But
Okay.
I immediately just like stomped it out on the floor, but I had to like basically, so what I did to try and cover it up, because it was like nylon fiber, part of it had melted. So I took some like safety scissors and tried to like cut around, like not totally cut the carpet up, but like cut down the part that was singed and burned, and then I went and took a safety razor and like tried to shave down the carpet to make it match the rest of the room so I
Oh
wouldn't get
my
caught.
God.
This is hey, by the way, because I know my parents are listening to this is statute of limitations. You can't bust me for this now. I pay
They
my
never
taxes.
knew.
They never
You
found
got
out.
away with it. That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah, I got away with it.
Oh my God.
So
that's
that was my little
amazing.
fire.
That was your little fire. I never lit a little fire everywhere, but I knew this guy in high school that he was just in this he was playing with fire in his garage, and he burned part of his arm. And I think his
Ooh.
arm, if I remember correctly, his arm had some pretty severe burns on it because of the fire.
Yeah.
And there's this kid, because we were in like a science class, and this kid goes up to him and goes, "Hey, like fire guy, like you like fire, right? Like are you afraid of fire now?" And he had like a lighter, and he started like putting it in his face.
What an
But
asshole.
he got too close to the guy, and the guy had like some like hairspray or hair gel or hair product in his hair.
Oh no.
And this was during a time where like a substitute teacher was yelling at the class and saying like, you all need to behave.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of this lecture, this kid with his hair on fire runs through the classroom to the sink on the right side of the class, because it was the science lab.
Yeah.
So I just remember that in the middle of this room there was a little fire, and like this kid like just like interrupted a scolding to put out his scalp.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah,
Can we talk
it was
about how
terrible.
that kid basically kids are such assholes. That kid basically
are
treated
assholes.
Fire Guy like he was Frankenstein.
Absolutely he did. And now he is a Frankenstein.
Oh,
Those burns never healed.
Jesus Christ, seriously?
They never healed, Spencer.
That's so tragic. Why would you share that story? Mine is
Because
like
that's my-
a whimsical
that's my-
tale of childhood mischief, and yours is just a fucking nightmare story of misery.
I don't have a fire story. I had to take someone else's.
Oh my God, but you were there.
I was there.
Oh my
That's
God.
the thing. That's the sad thing about like when you don't have a fire story. That's the real tragedy. When you don't have a fire story, you have to take someone else's.
You're the
but
real
all
victim
the fire
in this
stories
scenario,
that you know
Ryan.
are horrible. Wait, what?
I said you're the real victim in this story.
I am the real victim in this because I don't have a fire story. I've never had a fire. I've never had to deal with a fire.
Oh my God, that poor guy. That's terrible. Why are we
Listen,
laughing?
Don't worry about him. He's fine. It's me you got to worry about.
Is he fine, Ryan? I need you to do some research for my peace of mind and bring it up on the next episode. That's your homework for the
I'm going to look him up right now.
Oh God. You know what, Ryan, while you look that up, this is going to be a well-known classic that a lot of us like. This is We Didn't Start the Fire. We'll be right back. And we're back. That was Billy Joel with "We Didn't Start the Fire." So Ryan, what did you find out over the music break?
He's on drugs.
That makes sense. So that
Anyway,
that was our discussion on Little Fires Everywhere. So
I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something out of it.
yeah, check.
That's the thing. That's the thing I'm talking about, Spencer. Like there are little fires everywhere, but none for me.
But you know what, Ryan? Only you can prevent little fires everywhere, or
You know what,
promote
Spencer?
little fires everywhere. I forgot what the point of the segment was. Your wife's gonna kill me.
Dude, that guy's gonna kill you when he finds you.
What
Finds that you were laughing at him.
what a nightmare. What a nightmare scenario.
It wasn't. I say like he was burned, but he wasn't.
I mean, I knew a kid who set his hair on fire in high school too, so it's not an uncommon thing.
Wait, you set someone's hair on fire?
No, I know a kid who set his own hair on fire because he was a dumbass.
Tell me that story.
Um, so this actually it was middle school. It was the end of middle school going into high school, and it was just it was the end of eighth grade. One of the people that I knew was having a house party, and it was getting towards the end of the night. The parents did that thing like, "Oh, okay, well we're going upstairs. You know, you kids behave." And like 10 minutes after they went upstairs, some kid busted out a lighter because he wanted to look cool, and set his hair on fire. And that's the story.
And where is he now?
Probably on drugs.
Probably on drugs. It's probably the same guy.
We do have weirdly overlapping high school stories.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, I think that's the high school experience, man. I think everyone knows the certain kid that does something. I was talking about this with somebody like all of my assemblies were awful. Like, did you have like high school assemblies when you were a kid?
Not as often as you'd think. We had more assemblies in middle school than any other school that I went to.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we had high school assemblies all the time, and every time we had a high school assembly, and God bless the leadership kids that put them on, and God bless like the faculty that like put them on. But like when you put that many like young people in a room together, like our high school was relatively well sized. We had like about 1,000 students.
Yeah.
When you put that many people in a gym and you tell them to behave, like they're not going to behave.
No.
We had, like I still remember we had this guy come by and was like, he was collecting for a company that was donating shoes to children in third world countries, and he came in and he gave his presentation like, this is why you should donate shoes. Like if you have old shoes, if you want to buy new shoes, if you want to give money, like this is why you should support. And if your school donates the most shoes, then you get like a prize. I don't remember what the prize was.
Was it a sweet BMX bike?
Wait, what?
Was it a sweet BMX bike?
It was a sweet BMX bike, and you ride it and you go, ow, ooh, the pedals,
Because you don't have any shoes.
But as they were explaining it, this kid gets up, feels so motivated by the assembly, he takes his own shoes off and chucks them on the basketball court. Everyone else goes, yeah, that's a great idea. And so it's just people pelting other people with shoes until like the faculty had to come in and be like, please stop throwing shoes. It was like this giant shoe pile, and people like were getting hit in the back of the head. Like it was just a nightmare.
It was chaos.
It was chaos. And then the school had a problem because they were like, you can't be in our halls and not wear shoes. Like everyone get your fucking shoes on now. So, but there were these people that were trying to hide the fact that they didn't have shoes on because they, in the heat of the moment, decided to yeet them into the basketball court.
Oh my god.
It was just madness. It was madness, but I think everyone has a school like that.
Total chaos.
Total chaos. If you could go back to high school, would you?
No.
Absolutely not. If let's say if you had to go back to high school, you have to go back to high school. You have to do all 4 years.
Okay.
What would you do differently?
That's really tough because I like where I am in life right now, and a lot of things in high school shaped that. So I'm not sure. Maybe try a little harder in a couple of classes, but in terms of like social interactions and things like that. That's a really hard one. Would I go back and have the memories that I have now?
Yeah,
Would I be the same age or would I be high school aged?
you'd be high school aged.
Good, because that would make a lot of things very uncomfortable.
No, you're wearing like a propeller hat and you have a big lollipop.
This isn't a
and you're
Billy Madison
desperately trying-
scenario.
Yes.
Okay. Um, yeah, I think the harder thing would be trying to remember what I did, because I remember like the milestone moments, but I don't remember the little things from day to day. And maybe that would come back to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a perfectly cromulent high school experience, but I like I said, I've done a lot to look forward in my adult life and not look back on those things, because I'm in a good place career-wise, and all that. Except for this show, maybe if I'd done things differently, I wouldn't have to be doing this podcast.
Maybe if you'd done things differently, you would have had a better co-host, and things would have really picked up.
No, you would have had a much better co-host.
know.
No, that's a tough one. Didn't hate high school, just have no desire to go back, because things just got progressively, they improved once I went to college, because I met you and I met a lot of my lifelong friends in college, people I still talk to this day, and I had a more formative experience, I think, in college than I did in high school. High school was sort of a stepping stone to get to the real shit, which was college. But I guess if I had to go back, I would try to do a little better in some of my classes, but not a whole lot else. The challenge would be trying to remember what I did to get to the point that I'm at now.
I think that's a healthy way to look at the scenario. I think if you go back and your first reaction is I would change all my friends, then I think your high school experience may have been tainted by something. But I think every normal person on the planet would look back and go like, yeah, I would try a little harder here and there.
Yeah.
My last year of high school, because I did some zero periods and some summer schools. I got to take some off periods. I got 2 off periods.
Uh-huh.
And I've been chasing that feeling ever since, my man. I loved having to work half of a day and then like seeing my friends at like first break and then being like, see you suckers later. And then,
Yeah.
Getting out of there.
We used to be able to have free lunch where we could go off campus, but that ended shortly after I started high school, which was a shame, because we had a Burger King that was built next to the high school, like for the purpose of getting high school traffic, I'm pretty sure. But by the time I was in high school, our town was getting pretty sketchy.
Yeah, it can't be easy with Robert Downey Jr. driving around and going to that Burger King.
He was the distributor for a lot of kids in that school.
He was, hey, there's RDJ.
Hey.
Like, not now, kid. You don't know me. Was that a burger?
Oh, it's funny what you mentioned about the whole friends thing, because for better or for worse, I had good friends, I had really bad friends. The people that you meet shape your life experience in one way or another, and because them being lousy friends, I go back and I think about that from time to time. It's like, were they bad friends, or were there things I could have done better as a person? And I think it's both. In looking back on it and doing some genuine reflection, it's like I could have, been less spastic, but they could have also have been better friends. So it's give and take. I had good memories with them, I had shitty memories with them, but that's life, that's friendship. If everything was perfect, then you peaked in high school, and that's sadder than anything we do on this show.
No, it's true. It's true. I was very blessed that that my high school friends were the kind of people that like we didn't have to like go out and like let's like drink or let's like do drugs.
Yeah.
And like and I had friends that did that, but like we didn't have to do that to like have a good time. Like we didn't have to like go out and cause a ruckus. Like we were just happy like being together and like supporting each other, and we were from like all walks of life, like all different cliques. Like we just got along.
Yeah.
I think so I always look back on like time, like especially like late high school where we kind of figure it out. It's like I would relive moments in that, just because when high school is good, it's pretty damn good.
It's true.
But I would never go back.
It's a point in your life where you have enough agency as a human being to do things for yourself, kind of for the first time. but you have none of the responsibilities of being an adult.
Right.
I can see why that is appealing to so many people and why they think that high school was sort of a time like that for them. You know, you and I were lucky. We went to college together. We lived in the same college town for 4 years, and it had a very laid back atmosphere.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, you'd mentioned partying in high school. Majority of my friends started like late senior year to kind of start getting into partying. At that point, I was dating someone and was in a really committed relationship with that person, and we were kind of off doing our own thing, you know, as a couple, and so we didn't really go get into the partying scene much. I started going out and having parties with friends more in college than I did in high school. And that's a slippery slope too, because when you start doing it in high school, I've noticed there's sort of a trend of people who party in high school, like that defines their characteristic as like a party guy,
Hmm.
and they kind of chase that as a good time.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's a flip side to it too, because you have the kids that don't do it in high school and then they go to college
Oh, and then they just go
and they
nuts.
overdo it.
Yeah, because they were repressed. And more often than not, it's just because you find that those were the kids who grew up in really restrictive households, and they can't handle the amount of freedom that they have once they do get out into the world like that. And it almost becomes too much for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I loved the group of friends we had, and I say it like, oh, those guys, like we'll never see them again.
Yeah,
But like
that's not that's not
no,
true.
I loved our college friends.
Yeah,
Like, we have some that listen to the show, so
yeah, it's true. I still keep in touch with many of them. Not
yeah.
as much as I'd like to. So if you guys are listening, I'm sorry. I'm still out there. I care about you guys, and I miss you.
If you're listening, college friends, you know where to find me, and if I haven't contacted you, there's a reason for that. No, I'm kidding. It's because I don't contact.
Well, you and I were also lucky too that, you know, in terms of our social circle, we were both theater kids, both in high school and in college. So we had
Oh yeah,
like we
theater
had
kids are the best.
yeah, we had an immediate friend group, but we had a wider circle of acquaintances and friends too that we would kind of cycle around as well, and that's
Hmm.
that's really cool too.
Yeah. Can I tell you a short anecdote?
Yeah, go for it.
So when I was in high school, I think this was my freshman, maybe sophomore year of high school. Um, I was really, I was very, very shy. Uh, like I don't really go out of my way to make contact with people that don't like me. They like make contact with me. Like that's kind of how I operate, and I still kind of operate that way.
Yeah.
Um, my freshman year, um, I did a play, and the only kid that would talk to me was this kid that I'll never forget what he said to me. He goes up to me and he goes, I could see people's auras. I could see people's auras based on what color your aura is. I could tell what you're thinking. Your aura is orange, which means that you don't believe me, which is the most incredible, amazing thing I've ever heard a human being say in my life. I can, to this day, I cannot tell if um if he's a genius or an idiot. I
At a
can't
certain point,
tell.
there's not a difference.
It's at a certain point there's not a difference, but I remember and I did that play and it was kind of awkward, but I did it just because I never talked to anyone. And then
Yeah.
I was about to do a second play, and I was sitting in the theater, and Aura Kid came up to me and said, like he said something to the tune of like another year with like these fucking clowns, and like looking over at like this group of kids just like laughing in the corner.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, like it's gonna be like real rough, and like just like we're just people on the outside. Like he like looked at me and he was like, we're on the outside. And that kid like got up and walked away, and I was alone, and I made a choice to go talk to the people he was making fun of,
Hmm.
and those people wound up being what wound up saving my life. Those people wound up being like my uh my life rope. when it came to like my social life, because otherwise, like, I never did that. Like,
Yeah.
I never went up. I literally was me getting up and being like, "Can I hang out with you guys?"
Yeah.
And they're theater people. They were like, "Of course." And some of those people wound up being my very closest friends. So it's just a little lesson out there. If you're out there somewhere for whatever reason listening to this, and you're lonely,
Yeah.
the key is always to reach out and ask,
Yeah.
because the answer is almost always going to be yes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have a hard time doing that because the fear of rejection is often very crippling for a
Mhm.
lot of people. Fear of failure does that. So that's a good wholesome lesson for this episode. If you do feel lonely, just reach out. Especially now, right? How many people feel super isolated because of everything that's happening?
Oh,
More often than
absolutely.
not, a lot of people feel the very same way. So
Yeah.
you are definitely not alone. If you feel like you need
Yeah.
to reach out to someone, or if there's someone you just haven't talked to in a while, just reach out. Say hey. That's all it takes. Is just to say hey, how's it going? I mean,
Absolutely.
it
My advice to you is, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I'm lonely, like, I feel like no one's reaching out to me. My advice to you is to think of 3 people in your life that you can reach out to, because the chances are people are waiting for the same call.
yeah. That's good. And it's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast with you in the first place is even though some people who are listening to this may not know us personally, I like to think that we're reaching out that far at some point with the show. Even if, we don't know the people directly, I like to listen to these types of formats of programs because it's nice to listen to people have a roundtable discussion about anything and everything. Especially for me because when I'm working, I'm spending a lot of time commuting. So having some background noise and listening to people chit chat, like it makes it just seem less lonely. Um, I like that anecdote that you shared as well because it reminds me of when I was a senior in college. And you and I had already known each other at that point, but we were not yet roommates. And I had gone from a rooming situation in which I knew the people who I was living with to not knowing anybody, and I was in a different dorm. And I remember thinking, man, this is going to be a long year in a room full of people that I don't know in my senior year. And then I went and had dinner with you guys at the commissary, like you and your roommates, and you had not had a fourth roommate show up yet. And I just remember sitting at the table thinking, like, man, these guys are really cool. And I just was like, hey, would it be cool if I moved in with you guys?
And it was awesome. You clicked right away with everyone.
Yeah, and it ended up being the best rooming experience I had in all 4 years of college. It
Mine
was awesome.
too. Yeah, it was awesome, man. It
And
all worked
those
out.
friends were the real treasure that we found along the way. Or however that quote goes.
Sorry, I just hit my head 4 times. Did I do 4 claps? I did not count.
Okay.
If I did, count my claps and dub in.
Leave a comment below.
No. Leave a comment below if I counted correctly. I probably did not, so I apologize. With that, Spencer, I think it's time for our closing segment. Do you have an idea for a closing segment?
Actually, I do. Do you
Yeah?
remember the video we did on Ryan Reacts a few weeks ago, where I
I
showed
sure
you the
do.
guy with the gun who played the
Yes.
Super Mario Brothers theme and fired a gun?
I sure do.
So I did a little bit of digging and investigating, and it turns out that he has a YouTube channel with hundreds of these videos, and he does a service called Gungrams.
What?
They're called Gungrams, and you can pay to have him do a personalized video message where he will do a song, fire his gun, do whatever. You remember when it said like "Happy Birthday so and so" from such and such, and we were
That was a gungram.
very confused. That was a gungram.
Oh my god.
There are hundreds of these, and I would like to show you one more.
Okay.
If you're in the mood for it. So
Yes.
here we go. This is another gungram that we're doing. We won't do quite a Ryan Reacts, but a similar format. All right, Ryan, I have sent you the link. So yeah, really, really kind of unsettling is as I was pulling up that video, his last video was uploaded 4 months ago, and it just is titled "Glory to Hong Kong." I hope you're okay, Gungram guy, wherever you are. But
Wherever you are, Gun Grab guy.
he has 11,000 subscribers.
Send us a Gun Gram if you are okay.
I kind of want to order one for you for your birthday.
Please do.
And I'll surprise you with it on the segment.
I would love that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna click the link.
All right, so this is a good one that I ran across. So this is a shout out to the Gungram guy. He's on YouTube. Look him up. Show him some love.
So wholesome.
Yeah.
It doesn't even really go with the song.
It really doesn't.
Oh, good. It's from Toy Story. I'm glad he said, "Happy Valentine's, Clayton."
Happy Valentine's, Clayton.
From Levin. I wish I was smart enough to come up with a business like this.
It's inspired.
All you need is a trumpet and a gun. You have 11,000. Is it 11,000 followers?
11,000 followers.
You get a trumpet, and I'll get a gun.
Okay.
And together, we should have those followers. Charlie's Gungram.
I don't know what makes it better or not, but hey, the fact that there are hundreds of videos on this guy's page as compared to just the one, I don't know if it was better as sort of this enigma, like what the hell is this, as like a one-off, or if it's better by the fact that it's a commercial business for this guy, that he's made a living off of playing the trumpet and shooting a gun in his backyard.
I think the fact that he uses a weapon to make people happy is a win enough. Just
Only
like
in America.
Batman.
There you go, just like Batman.
Just like he is Batman.
Oh, you know, and those are the real cads we cast along the and you know what, Ryan?
What did you say?
I'm gonna take that again.
No. You keep that. These are the real casts we pod along the way. We
That's
should change
right.
the name of our show.
We're gonna change it every week. You know, last week it was a podcast about Jabberjaw, and you know, this week it's a podcast about Little Fires.
Oh shit, we didn't talk about Jabberjaw!
No, it's okay. Because now, Ryan, now we're a podcast about, was it True Crime or Little Fires?
You said it 2 seconds ago.
Anyways, folks, thanks for joining us here on the pods we cast along the way.
Spencer!
What?
Don't interrupt me! I'm sorry. Close the show.
Thank you for joining us, everyone, here on the pods we cast along the way. Until next week, I'm Spencer.
And I'm Ryan, and don't forget to bring a smile.
And a gun.
Thank you everyone for listening to this week's show. Remember to smash that like button and follow us on iTunes and Spotify. This has been the pods we cast along the way.